2024 brand new special stipulations from the Georgia Association of Realtors. Hi, everybody. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors and director of the Real Estate Academy of America. Continuing on with our series of the changes that GAR has made to the 2024 contract package. Today, I just want to cover the five, count them, brand new special stipulations that the Georgia Association of Realtors has added this year. Two of them I have talked about in a previous video about commission, so check that one out, and let's go over all five of them. So I'm going to share my screen so you can read along with me. So hang on, everybody. Let me share my screen, and here we go. The first special stipulation is Special Stipulation 112, warning to buyers regarding identity theft indemnification and covenant not to sue. This same verbiage is also used has been added to the 2024 purchase and sale agreement and the brokerage agreements. This seller impersonation fraud has been rampant throughout our state, and I believe throughout the entire country this past year. And it is especially prevalent for seller impersonation or seller fraud of vacant listings and land listings. Basically, the seller is not really the owner of the property, and the attempt is for the bad guy to get money at closing when they don't even own the property. So this is the special stipulation that GAR has added for 2024. And it states, buyer acknowledges that there is an increasing amount of identity theft involving persons impersonating sellers of property and attempting to sell property they do not own. This is particularly the case in the sale of lots and vacant properties. Buyers should take extra precautions to verify the identity of the seller of any property buyer contracts to buy. Buyer acknowledges that with the increasing sophistication of the fraudsters, the risk of being defrauded exists regardless of the steps the buyer and others may take to help buyer verify the identity of the seller. Buyer is therefore strongly encouraged to purchase an enhanced title insurance policy on any property buyer is buying to try to protect against this risk. For and in consideration of $10 and other good and valuable consideration, the receipt and sufficiency of which is hereby acknowledged. Parenthetically, that just means that money does not actually change hands. Buyer covenants not to sue any brokers involved in any real estate transaction buyer enters into during the term of this agreement, covered transaction for any damage arising out of or relating to a fraudulent seller. All of the brokers involved in any covered transaction are express third-party beneficiaries of this section. The next special stipulation is GAR 336. And this special stipulation, this is, well, let me read it to you, then we'll discuss it. General liability insurance coverage. Buyer shall cause any person or company performing any type of testing, inspections, or evaluations on the property to first provide the seller with a current certificate of insurance evidencing that such person or company has general liability insurance in a combined single limit coverage amount of at least $500,000. So this is, again, depending on the property, this would be typically used in a seller's counter offer to a buyer. If a buyer is going to inspect the property, just that anybody doing any testing, inspecting, or evaluations does have some general liability insurance. Well, just what it says. All right, next special stipulation 416. Curious to hear your comments on this one. Security deposit from seller for temporary occupancy of property after closing. So this is if you negotiate for the seller to stay in the property for a limited amount of time by signing the temporary occupancy agreement after closing. And this one states, seller shall pay buyer at closing a security deposit of blank amount of dollars, which shall be held by the buyer to cover any damage, because the buyer now, remember, is now the owner of the property because it's at closing. Seller shall pay buyer at closing a security deposit of X amount of dollars, which shall be held by the buyer to cover any damage done to the property during the temporary occupancy period, excluding normal wear and tear and damage existing in the property prior to the temporary occupancy period. Buyer shall send notice to seller of any deductions for damage done to the property for which the seller is responsible under this exhibit. And the exhibit it's referring to is the temporary occupancy for seller exhibit, temporary occupancy for seller after closing, responsible under this exhibit. Buyer shall not deduct any amount from the security deposit without first providing the seller with notice of either repair estimate for the cost to correct the damage or a receipt for such repair. The security deposit or that portion remaining after permissible deductions shall be returned to the seller within 10 days after possession of the property has been returned to the buyer at the following address of the seller after the end of the temporary occupancy period, or such other address of which the seller may give notice to the buyer. Buyer may owe additional duties regarding security deposit if the property is professionally managed during the temporary occupancy period, or if buyer owns multiple properties. Before we go on to the other two special stipulations, I do encourage you, if you are going to use this special stipulation, to also use a move-in, move-out form. And the Georgia Association of Realtors has 3 forms for your agent convenience. One is F910, and that is the move-in, move-out form long form. And they have the F9111, that is the move-in form short form, and the F912 move-out form short form. So take a look at those where the buyer and the seller get on the same page regarding the current status of the property when moving in, to have something to compare to when moving out. All right, moving along to the last 2 new special stipulations for 2024, and these are the ones that I have addressed. They have to do with commission, same verbiage. One is specifically regarding a buyer getting a VA loan, and the verbiage GAR put it in there because some buyers and sellers may not be aware that if a buyer is getting a VA insured loan, they are prohibited by VA guidelines from paying a broker's commission. So, Special Stipulation 619, this is a buyer requesting a seller to pay the buyer's broker's commission. This is not changing the listing, the seller's broker's commission. So we're not in violation of license law. What it says is, since under the VA loan program, buyer cannot pay buyer's broker a commission, buyer hereby requests and seller hereby agrees to pay buyer's broker, fill in the blank, and that's either expressed as a % of the sale price or a flat fee amount, as the total real estate commission due to buyer's broker at closing. Nothing herein shall be interpreted as a request to alter, modify, or change the commission to be received by the seller's broker, if any, that the seller may have already agreed to pay the seller's broker in a separate written agreement, i.e. the seller brokerage agreement. That last phrase is in there so as not to put any agents in violation of license law. This isn't an agent affiliated, a licensee, or a broker asking the other broker to change their commission. This is the buyer asking the seller to pay their broker's commission. And then the brand new special stipulation, SS 620, same verbiage without the reference to the VA loan program. It just starts with this section that says buyer hereby requests and seller hereby agrees to pay buyer's broker the commission, so forth and so on. What do you think? Love to hear your comments on the new special stipulations. If you like them, if you have used something similar to that in the past. And again, please watch all the other videos on the 2024 GAR contract changes. And we do continue to teach these CE classes. We taught a ton of virtual and in-person CE classes on these changes in December of 2023, and they continue on through January of 2024. And if you're watching these videos after that, I hope they're helping you out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and the director of the Real Estate Academy of America, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education. Bye. If you like that video, check out the one here. If you like the content on this entire channel, please click here to subscribe. I try to take even the most complicated of real estate situations and make them crystal clear. See what I did there? Real estate made crystal clear. Thank you guys so much for watching.